Hi there guys, Sam here, welcome back to another video, and you join me going through an article saying around why it's the end of the road for petrol stations. So yeah, let me go through the article, let me discuss my thoughts around it. I'm going to skim through this, but I'll leave a link in the description for this below if you want to check it out before. Yeah, I have my views on it and I'm interested to share this and hear your thoughts as well. So yes, let's get straight into this. Yes, welcome back to another video. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts in the comments on this one, because I just feel like the whole electric debate, it's really kind of hotting up, and yeah, it's at this point where I still think it's at the very, very early adoption phase, and it could still go either way, and they could change rules and stuff like that. So I'm interested to know where everyone else's thoughts on it. So please let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is a community channel, like, share, subscribe, it really does help out. And yeah, to hear your thoughts, I think is really, really important. So yeah, please get involved in that. But let me read through the article for you. So this is done by Justin Rowlett. Not sure if that's his real name. I think the BBC do things where they hide the names and they just give a bit of a fake name. But yeah, anyway, let's go through this. So, quite an aggressive article, I feel, and quite aggressively forced upon the reader. Let's start from the beginning. The big worry for most people thinking about buying an electric car is how to charge the thing. But the real question you should be asking is how you're going to refuel your petrol or diesel vehicle if you don't go electric. That's because electric cars are going to ascend the petrol station business into a death spiral over the next 2 decades, making electric vehicles the default option for all owners. Why? Because charging electric vehicles is going to become much more straightforward than refueling petrol and diesel cars. This isn't just because the government has banned the sale of petrol and diesel cars from 2030. Imagine we were going the other way, replacing electric cars with fossil fuel power. You're writing a risk assessment for a new petrol station. You want to dig a big hole in the ground in the middle of the town, put in some tanks and fill them up with an enormous amount of highly flammable fuel. Then you're proposing to attach a really powerful pump and invite a random member of the public, to fill it up. They'll arrive in vehicles with hot engines, you'll hand them a really powerful pump and spray the highly flammable liquid. Without any supervision, they'll use it to transfer large quantities of highly flammable liquids into their hot vehicle. They'll pay you and drive off. Are you okay to sign that off? Do you think health and safety will give it the green light? My point is that refueling cars with petrol and diesel is dangerous, which is why we do it at specifically designated centralised refueling points. Ubiquitous power. Electricity, by contrast, is pretty much everywhere already. Where's your car now? Do you think it might be near an electricity cable? Exactly. The only challenge is how to bring the electricity a few feet to the surface so you can start getting it into your battery. If you live in a flat or a house, don't worry. The aim is to have an electric vehicle charging point at virtually every parking place. You'll get to a point where you barely ever have to think about energy flowing into your car again. Of course, we're a long way off from that utopia, and that should be no surprise. Just 7% of new cars are electric, and they make up a tiny fraction of the vehicles on the road. But change is coming fast, and investment in charging infrastructure is coming with it. There will be good profits to be made when millions of us want to recharge. The first people to get charging technology at home are those with designated driveways who can run cable to their electric cars. They can already install special charging points that recharge car batteries overnight from the power supply to the house, often using the cheapest possible rates. Typically, this is a slow process. For every hour of charging, you'll get about 30 minutes of driving. But who cares when most people leave their cars parked overnight and you're only paying a couple of pence per mile? Some local authorities have already begun installing similar chargers in lampposts. We're seeing a lot more innovations in the years to come. We're also starting to see businesses putting charging points in for their customers. In fact, free charging is likely to become like free Wi-Fi, a little bribe to lure you into the shop. 97% of electric car charging will happen away from petrol pump equivalents. Imagine someone came around your house and filled up your car with petrol every night so you had 300 miles of range every morning. He says, how often would you need anything else? In this brave new world, you'll only need to ever pull over at a service station on a really epic long journey, and you'll top up the battery for 20 to 30 minutes while you have a copy and use the facilities. Death sentence. If this prediction is correct, it is a death sentence for many of the 8,380 petrol stations in the UK. The decline of the industry could come surprisingly quickly. Think about it. As electric vehicles begin to edge out petrol and diesels, there will be less refueling business to go around. Those service stations on the edge of viability will begin to go to the wall. That will make it a little bit harder for petrol and diesel drivers to find a service station to fill up in, and the remaining operators may also feel the need to up their price to maintain profits. So fewer and quite possibly more expensive petrol stations Meanwhile, it'll be getting easier and easier to charge your electric car. What's more, as the market scales up, electric vehicles will become cheaper to buy. You see where this is going. The more petrol stations close, the more likely we're going to go electric. That's why it's called a death spiral. Oh, and don't worry about where the electricity to power these cars is going to come from. The National Grid says you won't have a problem charging all the electric vehicles that are going to come onto the roads. In fact, it isn't even expected much of an increase in demand, just 10% when everyone is driving electric. That's because the average car journey is just 8.4 miles. Most charging will not be at the time of peak, and peak demand has been reducing over the years, so we're very confident there is enough energy to meet the demand. Smart charging systems will also help. They allow your charger to talk to the grid to work out the best time to charge your car. And to go on to the only thing that was basically said that was in favour of the petrol car was basically saying the chairman of the Petrol Retailers Association is more down to earth. The PRA, the Petrol Retailers Association, as I've said, represents 5,500 independent fuel retailers who account for 70% of all forecourts, and they say his members have started to adapt to this post-internal combustion world. Many are already investing in full convenience stores, high-quality takeaway foods and automated car washes to boost their income, and he says they will continue to enable motorists to fill up their petrol and diesel vehicles for as long as feasible. He thinks the transition away from petrol and diesels will take decades. These vehicles will simply not disappear off the roads overnight. Petrol and diesel stations will be essential in keeping the country mobile beyond 2030. Technological change can be very rapid and very disruptive. Look at what happened to the horse and cart at the turn of the 20th century. Some service stations will certainly live on, those on motorways, for example. So I've briefly read through that for you guys. Let me just go through a little bit of a summary, just a little bit of like a couple of minutes of your time to sort of discuss how I think about this article. First of all, it's all pro-electric, and 90% of the whole article is pro-electric, except for a tiny little bit right at the end. And let's be honest, who gets right to the end of most things? I don't even know how many people are still tuned in listening to this video, but if you are, well done. But that's my point there. So it's always going to entice the reader that electric is the way to go and convince them that petrol, diesel is not. They gave an example of how it wouldn't get past any sort of health and safety standards of today. Yeah, that's true. We're in 2021 and it probably would have some issues. But if you talk about something that is already existing and already working hard on getting more efficient as the days go on, is there a real business proposition to get rid of the petrol car? I'm not so sure. They mentioned about how electricity is pretty much everywhere, and you're right, it is pretty much everywhere. But just like everything, the more you use something, the more energy it will consume. If you have a big family SUV or whatever it is, it's going to need more power to work. And the further you want that vehicle, your phone, your laptop, whatever it is, it needs more power to do it. Simple as that. And ask yourself, how many times do you leave your laptop off charge? How many times are you charging your mobile phone a day? These are tiny items that weigh nothing, and they still consume vast amounts of energy and produce an awful lot of heat in the meantime. So yeah, it is everywhere, but if you're talking about towing along a 2.5 ton vehicle because it's all the batteries in it, suddenly that power is getting drained quite a lot. They mentioned how it's going to be more accessible for people in flats and houses. I'm not so sure. I've seen the UK, fair enough, you might be able to install a charging point and a smart charger on your driveway, again, taking up damage from the environment. How long is that going to work? Would the next owner who buys your house, are they going to want a massive charging sort of port sort of on their driveway? I'm not so sure. And for those people in flats, it's just very, very difficult. Unfortunately, most people who do unfortunately live in flats is because they can't afford a house in the first place. So how are they going to afford all these kind of electric charging points on top of that? I'm not so sure. They're right about the investment, 100%. It's pushing from legislation and from environmental factors, allegedly, rather than what people are actually asking for. No one's sitting here going, these petrol cars, they're just not working for us anymore. People use them a lot because they're good and they work. Simple as that. I think the reason for the environment suffering is because of us at the end of the day. The more we do, the more humans do, the more humans push on, the more energy that will be consumed on our planet. And that's the blunt reason. As long as we keep pushing and striving for the next thing, which is human nature we do, it's never going to get any better. They mentioned it's a slow process. It is a slow process right now. They mentioned it's a couple of pence per mile. It's not a couple of pence per mile. It's definitely cost you a hell of a heap more, and particularly if you consider how much pence per mile in depreciation of your electric vehicle, because no one can afford them at the moment, along with unexpected battery costs and things like that. Suddenly that couple of pence per mile isn't really a couple of pence per mile, and the cost of the electricity is just going to go up. And once they've got everyone saturated in, they can whack up the electricity prices and you'll be snookered. They mentioned how it's going to become free like free Wi-Fi. I can see that as an incentive to kind of get you into a place. Yeah, that's 100% true. But then they do that with fuel anyway. You know, they give you fuel vouchers if you spend like £10 in Sainsbury's or like over £50 in the shop in Sainsbury's. So nothing new there. That's not necessarily a reason to adopt it. If you only had 300 miles of range, that's all you need. Yeah, 300 miles, that's pretty good. But today, I mean, how many electric cars can do 300 miles if it's not a Tesla? Not that many. And how long will that take to charge? Not 20 to 30 minutes. Death sentence. Well, if you've got 8,500 petrol stations in the UK, I can't really see it being a death sentence. They mentioned as well that it's between 1 and 2 decades. I can't see there being, you know, if I go back 20 years in my life, in 2001, there were still plenty of petrol stations around. You know, I still don't see that many electric stations around. So we're not decades away. We're sort of 3 or 4 decades away, by which time it won't be our problem, to be honest with you. It'll be our children's problem to getting into these electric cars, not ours. Not to mention the fact that all the used cars that are still currently in use, it'd be great to use what you have. It's quite a philosophy that I kind of think of: use what you have, as that can sometimes be the more efficient way of getting things done. They say about the national grid and how it's going to charge the cars. I've no doubt they're going to find ways to charge it, but you know, at the same time, as much as there's, you know, positive energy from solar and wind, there's also a lot of bad energy that's not exactly environmentally friendly that will inevitably be used in some form. I just wanted to briefly go on to the end because it's someone representing all the petrol stations out there, the PRA. And for me, you've got to think about all those retailers who employ all those people and all the sort of mechanics and people who are responsible for combustion engine cars, who have a skill set in that car in the world. They stimulate the economy and they get paid money to live in this world, and that ultimately is what everyone wants. You're taking that away and you're adding something completely new, and for that to be adopted, for me it's just going to take so long. But they're going to do scare tactics like this, and articles like this come up quite often now, and it's why I wanted to share it with you, because I know it's what it will do is it will affect petrol and car and diesel drivers, because petrol prices or whatever will probably go up, mainly because of the coronavirus pandemic, not for any other reason, and because people are getting scared of these cars and getting forced into electric when they don't necessarily need to or should be doing it at this such early stage. But listen, those are my brief thoughts on it. Hope you enjoyed the article. A little bit of a different video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm just interested to gauge your thoughts on this, and if you really do enjoy it and you really do like it, it's something I'll certainly bring back on the channel. But yeah, back to petrol powered car talk yeah, in a video soon. So yes, please like, share, subscribe, check out my content for the videos that I do if you enjoy them. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little read through and my thoughts on the article. But thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers, guys.